What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? Very excited to have everybody on this Friday. A couple newcomers to the show and a returning guest. I hope all of you have been having a great week. This should be a good one. I was away last week in Nashville for an event with the Human Rights Foundation at Bitcoin Park, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit today, but it was a good time. But I'm glad to be back, glad to be live with everybody. Of course, if you haven't already, give this a share. But before I talk about that, this is live. Anything can happen. So in the instance that it does, I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. They really help a ton getting this show in front of more eyeballs. That little like button, it's just right down below there. If you tap it, really does help a lot. Anyways, guys, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, let's take a look at where we are in the market right now. This is timechaincalendar.com. We're sitting at $26,592 per coin. A single US dollar will grab you 3,761 sats. In terms of fees, a little bit of a bump lately. We're looking at 48 sats per byte next block. If you're willing to wait a little bit, 16 sats per byte, but I wouldn't count on that. And in terms of Bitcoin mined, 19.49 million of them have been mined. That's 92.82% of the entire supply. Shout out to sponsors of the show, hodlhodl.com. If you're stacking sats and you have some priorities in mind, like peer-to-peer trading, instant self-custody, no KYC, you can get it all here. Sign up with nothing more than an email address, choose your currency, payment method, and amount, and start browsing offers immediately. You can also check out their peer-to-peer lending, in which nothing is ever rehypothecated. Links are down below. And of course, when you do get some non-KYC sats, you're going to want to secure it with some good hardware. CoinKite has you covered. The Cold Card Mark IV is my go-to hardware wallet, has been for a long time. I've got all their other goodies too: Tap Signer, Sats Card, Block Clock, Open Dimes. Coming soon, Cold Card Q1. So if you want to reserve that or pick up anything else I mentioned, head over to coinkite.com. You can use code BTC Sessions for 5% off everything in the store. Backups, of course, are important. This week, I dropped a tutorial on the Seedor. This is a steel backup to protect your seed from the elements, fire, water, corrosion, all of that. And it is robust as hell. They've got a starter set that comes with everything. It's pretty crazy, actually. Giant mallet and stamps and positioner and everything. And anyways, you can check out the video on it. It's pretty awesome. I thoroughly enjoy it, and yeah, I feel pretty confident storing my seeds with it. So you can check them out, seedor.io. There's links down below depending on your jurisdiction where you can pick it up, so you don't have to pay exorbitant amounts for shipping. Couple last ones. Nunchuk.io has you covered with multisig, assisted multisig with their Honey Badger. Basically, you set it up on your phone. It walks you through the entire thing. You can use a ton of different options for hardware like Tap Signer, Cold Card, and plenty of others. At the end of all of that, you have a multisig in which Nunchuk holds one key and you hold the rest. It has baked in inheritance planning, so your sats get to your next of kin if anything should happen. And the whole thing is no KYC. So that has you fully set up and ready to go. Check them out. I've done a tutorial on that as well. And last shout out of the day to Start9, your sovereign computing solution, where you can use plug and play devices to run your entire Bitcoin stack, like Core, Lightning, mempool.space. You can host your data, files, passwords, photos, all of that. And they've got everything from entry level up to what I'm running, which is the Start9 Server Pure. Anyways, guys, I'm going to stop my ranting here. You can check them out at start9.com. But in the meantime, let's get our guests in and get rolling. So I want to welcome to the show, I want to welcome Ella and Arsh and Mick. Thank you guys so much for being here. Very glad to have you. I think some introductions are in order for those that are watching that may not be familiar. So I'll toss it over to Ella first. Ella, do you want to give yourself a little intro? Let people know who you are.
Absolutely. First, thanks, Ben, so much for having me on. My name's Ella Hough, and I am a junior in college, but the real reason I'm here is because I'm a project lead at Generation Bitcoin, along with Arsh, where essentially our mission is to help educate Gen Z about Bitcoin and then also help them eventually work in Bitcoin. So not just learn about it, but really become innovators in this space as well.
That's awesome. I love to hear. I think we definitely need to put time into educating as many young people in and around Bitcoin as possible. So noble cause. I'm happy that you're on it. Awesome. Arsh, I'll toss it down to you. Can you give yourself a little intro?
Definitely, yeah. Thanks for having me, Ben. As Ella mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Generation Bitcoin, and I also work at the Human Rights Foundation, where I work on our financial freedom program.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so I first met you, in Pacific Bitcoin last year, I think. Is that right?
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah. And then we've since seen each other at a handful of HRF events, which is awesome. So I'm glad to have you here. I guess it's been a long time coming. So yeah, thanks for joining me, man. And Mick, first, this is your second time on the show. Last time was an epic one. I'm glad to have you back. Can you give yourself a little intro for those unfamiliar?
Yeah, of course. So good to be back. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I got you loud and clear.
Yeah, so I'm Mick, MetaMick, co-founder and CEO of Geyserfund. It's a platform for creators to launch their projects or ideas and fundraise through their community. I believe you, Ben, have utilized it, so we'll love to also hear thoughts on it at some point.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you back, man. And yeah, so this should be a good chat. We're gonna just dive right into it. First, those unfamiliar with the show, format's pretty simple. All of us come with a reason for being bullish, something that we're excited about in and around the Bitcoin space. It can be really anything that currently has our interest, but the run of the show is effectively somebody's going to drop a reason why they're bullish. That's their chance to rant and get whatever they have in their mind off of their chest. And then number two, we're all going to together riff on that reason, chat, figure out what little rabbit holes we want to go down. And then number three, we're going to rotate until everybody has a turn. So really simple: reason, riff, rotate all the way through. So I'm going to get us started today and with my reason for being bullish. And very broadly, I guess I could say the Bitcoin builders have me bullish on the projects and the amazing apps and services that they are busy creating. But I wanted to shine a spotlight on somebody that I've known for a long time, who seems to have pumped out, like just low key pumped out a whole bunch of stuff in the past little bit that has kind of blown me away. And some of it has not even been fully public yet. So, but I mean, it's not meant to be a secret, but I can talk about it a little bit here because the talk wasn't televised. So I want to give a shout out to Francis Pouliot and what he's doing with Bull Bitcoin. So anybody that doesn't know Bull Bitcoin or maybe doesn't know specifically what they do, I worked with Francis at Bull Bitcoin for a year and a half or so, and effectively what it is you know, it was one of the first Bitcoin only exchanges that existed. So he was one of the first to say, no, we're not going to be dealing with any of the other riffraff that's been happening. We're just going to focus on Bitcoin. But prior to it being called Bull Bitcoin, it was called Bills, BYLLS. And effectively it allows anybody in Canada at the time to pay any bill that they wanted. They were able to plug in to the payment rails in Canada. And in Canada, there's basically like a single, like Telpay is kind of responsible for pretty much any bill you would pay. So they were able to plug into that and then provide a platform where you could say, hey, this is my account for this particular bill, and I'd like to pay this amount on it. And they would just say, okay, here's a Bitcoin QR code, scan it and pay that amount, and we'll handle the rest. And your bill is paid within 24 to 48 hours, which was already wild. But then he went and he did all this stuff like adding Lightning, adding Liquid, adding all of these different things. The whole thing, if you're buying Bitcoin from them, is non KYC in certain instances if you want it to be. He also was the first exchange to implement CoinJoin as a privacy feature anytime you send coins to them. So in this post here, he said, Bull Bitcoin started as the world's first Bitcoin bill payment business. 10 years later, thousands of Canadians use their services each month for everyday payments, privacy focused, extreme speed, instant exchange rates, Lightning enabled. So he goes on to say, you pay a credit card bill on chain, no KYC. Next day, the payment appears on your statement with no mention of Bitcoin. You try chain analysis on your transaction, but it disappeared into a coin join. Or pay with Lightning, not even a transaction ID. And then he says, the American/European mind cannot comprehend this because it's not available in other places. So, first off, hats off for that. But he also dropped this bomb earlier in the month, which is being able to buy Bitcoin with cash through any post office in all of Canada, which is crazy. Like you can walk in with like up to $1,000 per transaction and up to $10,000 a week, and just go and you literally open up an app on your phone, and there's like a QR code, and the person at Canada Post doesn't need to know at all what it is. They just scan it like a regular product, and then it'll say on their screen, how much does this person want to deposit? And you tell them how much and you give them cash, and then you've got money in your account. For me, it was like 10 or 15 minutes later. They never hold Bitcoin for you. So the moment that those dollars are allocated to your account, when you hit buy Bitcoin, you must provide a Bitcoin address. And then after that, it's in your custody minutes later. So that's the other bomb that he dropped. And then just the other day, all of a sudden, because Francis is in Costa Rica now, all of a sudden it just got leaked. And then he was like, I guess I better write a blog post. Bull Bitcoin is now all over Costa Rica. And you can just go anywhere, and they've integrated with this kind of national payment through the cell phone kind of thing. And all you need to do to send somebody money in the native currency in Costa Rica is you use Bull Bitcoin, you type in the person's mobile number, and then you send a Lightning payment, and that person will get Costa Rican colones into their account like in seconds. It's completely wild. And then beyond this, the other thing that I want to give a tip of the hat to was he did a talk at the Canadian Bitcoin conference talking about kind of the infrastructure he wants to build around a mobile Bitcoin app for Bull Bitcoin, which would effectively be the same rails that they have for funding an account, but never having custody of the Bitcoin. Because when you hit the buy Bitcoin button, it would just show up as a Bitcoin balance in the app, but the app is actually self-custody, but it's kind of blurring those lines because the dollars are in the custody of Bull Bitcoin. But the second you hit buy, it sends an actual on-chain or Lightning transaction to the wallet that resides within the app, and it's actually yours. And on top of that, you can import hardware wallets and send directly to that. So like it's all just in one. And you're kind of basically directly onboarding people to self-custody without them, they'll obviously guide them, but without them fully knowing they're just suddenly self-custodying. Yeah. So anyways, long and the short of it is, I know this is a long rant, but like Francis is just one example of the passion and hard work that are going into Bitcoin apps and resources and hardware everywhere. And if this is the kind of work ethic and the kind of head down, let's get this stuff done mentality that is happening across the Bitcoin ecosystem, then holy hell, I can only imagine what this looks like in 10 years. So I guess I'll kind of wrap it there, but I'm just going to kind of generally open it up to you guys and say, where do you feel we're at in terms of the Bitcoin builders that are out there? Are you excited the direction that we're going? And maybe as a secondary question is, what areas do you think need some more attention in this kind of TLC to help them along? So whoever wants to jump in with your general thoughts, I'm happy to take them.
I might quickly hop in first because I think Arsh and Mick are going to have kind of more to say on this subject with Geyserfund. But so my initial thoughts on this is, so often in my day, people tell me, you know, Ella, nothing happens in Bitcoin. Like there's no developments. It's kind of stagnant. And this is just, you know, even further proof that no, there actually is a lot happening, you know, all the time, everywhere. So I think that's very exciting. And some takeaways from Nashville, people were saying, we have to get people to start using Bitcoin, not just kind of keeping it like stationary. So these apps are helping with that. And then also the UI UX aspect, like how do we just make this easier for people? And so it sounds like he's clearly trying to do that and think about that. So I guess those are my 2 cents, and I'll hand it over to Arsh and Mick to kind of expand.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think from like a funding perspective, especially like there was a point in time where a lot of, you know, Bitcoin and its app ecosystems were not as easy to use, right? And we're still like nowhere close to being fully usable, I feel like. But you know, like I mean, the developments that we've seen with a lot of open source, you know, payment processors, a lot of wallets and stuff like that, like it's definitely advanced to the point. So definitely bullish on Bitcoin builders. I feel like there's more and more projects that are, you know, coming out of the space that are really important to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Mick,
Yeah, great points here. I think my first thought immediately actually was, and I saw him on the chat here, was the meme that Yellow always talks about, which is, guys, let's build, right? Let's build. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just you have to just say that you're building, even if you're not building. You're just, yeah, let's just build, guys. Anyway, the other thought was the announcement of Coinbase saying that they're going to integrate with Lightning. I think that's a very interesting, you know, development, mainly because I think at the foundation, the business model changes, right? It goes from being, we make money by having people trade crypto, right, to we make money by having people spend Bitcoin on Lightning.
Yeah.
Right. So this all of a sudden creates a new set of incentives for Coinbase to actually enable Bitcoin adoption at merchants, at consumer retails. And so it's big, right? It's big from that perspective. Obviously, you know, we know their history. We know we can't really trust them, but it's good for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then I would probably just say that, you know, guys are being part of it. You have, you know, great protocols on top of Bitcoin and Lightning that have been built, and you have these infrastructural builders, you know, great companies like BTC Pay Server, like Voltage, that help to kind of really lay out the foundations for them. People and platforms like Geyser, but there are many more. You know, there's Fountain, there is Wavelake and Stacker News. All these tools like Bitcoin and Lightning tools that actually allow you to use Bitcoin, not just to buy and hold, but to actually use Bitcoin in the online economy while you're listening to podcasts and so forth. So that's something I'm really hopeful for and bullish on. But also, I'd say that the final thing is probably just the development of Nostr and what's particularly exciting is just that it makes it so much easier for builders to build.
Mhm.
You know, just because you don't have to run a backend server or connect to Google Cloud, you can just build an application that sits on top of a relay directly, and build a tool on top of that. And so, just the ease of building will result to just so many more tools, so many more applications, and that's really, really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, you're right. The in particular, the stuff happening on Nostr, I can't keep up. there's so many, like, I have no idea where to start. I feel like I think I've done 3 different Nostr videos, and every time I've done a Nostr video, it's like the first one I did was near the beginning of the year, and it was hideously out of date like 3 months later. Like, all of the interfaces, everything was just like so completely different, and there were so many more tools that were easier to use that I had to make another one. And like now even that is like, you know, the stuff you can do, and like how it looks and everything is so different that yeah, it's wild how fast those things move. But you know, kudos to everybody that's putting in the work for it. Yeah, it's amazing. So I want to I don't want to spend too much time on my topic here, but I do want to get to your guys' topic. So I'll kind of put a bow on this one. But anyways, Francis, you're doing a killer job, and the rest of the builders out there, keep it coming, and I'll have plenty of material to cover in videos. But we're gonna do a rotation here. And so I'm going to actually toss it to Ella first, and I'll cue you up with the simple question. Why are you bullish?
Thanks, Ben. Okay, so I'll preface this with this is definitely going to fall into the rant, a little unformed category. So I'm going to talk through it. Bear with me, and then hopefully I can go back and refine it. But so about a year ago, I wrote a piece on Bitcoin Mag, and question: is Bitcoin the key to the universe? And I said yes, but I don't think until like maybe last week or the week or until the Michael Dunworth podcast came out on Peter McCormick, where his question was basically, can Bitcoin help us solve the unsolvable problems? I didn't know I could be more bullish on my answer, that the answer is yes. So this is the rabbit hole that my brain is kind of down at the moment. But if I had to say it succinctly, I would say that I'm bullish on Bitcoin because it gives us the wisdom and the insight to kind of solve the unsolvable problems, and actually is the key to the universe. And I'll kind of explain that. So for the first part, I think Bitcoin just generally, like the values it has, it allows us to take more responsibility for ourselves, to start ask questions. It's kind of like a catalyst almost for first principles thinking, and not just kind of like maybe throw in the towel or kind of give up some of our agency on what is right or what is wrong or what opinions we have. So I think just the fact that it kind of reinvigorates the spark in us to like ask questions and think differently is a very strong case for being bullish. But then to bring it back a little bit to what Michael Dunworth was saying, and I highly recommend people go and watch this podcast. I've watched it a couple times since. But Bitcoin kind of allows us to solve the hardest problems we have out there because it kind of unifies everything through its emphasis on numbers, specifically like prime numbers and energy. So kind of at the end of the day, we hear all the time, Bitcoin, it's just math. Bitcoin is just numbers. And so that's kind of what I had in my article. But okay, so this is where it's going to go a little off, not as concise here. But basically, there's this idea almost of like bridge laws. And we have, biology, chemistry, physics, thermodynamics, all the different types of sciences. And there's an idea of, what bridge laws, how do all of these different fields talk to each other? Like what is the common threads almost through them? And numbers is kind of one of the things he says is numbers are like our purest form to transmit meaning. Like language can get a little abstract, especially when you're switching to different types of languages. But Bitcoin, because it's based on numbers and on energy, I think it allows us to connect a lot of different dots and fields, and kind of reduce friction as we think about different problems. And, you know, what do we know in one field that we don't know in another field? So it helps us connect dots. It also helps us like collect them, because it's just making us be more curious, making us ask more questions. And then I think maybe the final thing I'll say in this is he also made the point that we've been in kind of the information age, but we're starting to go into the energy age. And so Bitcoin, we know it's, you know, created and secured by energy. Like Bitcoin is the ultimate energy thing. You know, if we're going into the energy age also, that's very interesting. And let's see, what else was I thinking about this? So yeah, basically Bitcoin's the key to the universe because it helps us solve these problems that propel us forwards, problems maybe we don't even know yet. Literally because it's based on numbers, prime numbers, because it's created and secured by energy. And then I think because it allows us, maybe most critically, to just adopt a low time preference, to actually stick with the hard problems and solve them. So there's my rant. There's kind of like the rabbit hole my brain is down. But I find that all incredibly fascinating and very hopeful for the future and where the future is going.
I love that. I think what I like about it is it's kind of a different way of thinking of the whole idea that Bitcoin is because it's based on numbers. It's kind of this distilled form of truth, and we've kind of lost that. Like, you know, when something as fundamental as the way that we kind of communicate our values, like, you know, you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into going to a job every day, and then you earn a money that you then put into action, and you expect some of those values to kind of be reflected back at you by society because you put all this work in. But then there's somebody behind the curtain that can press a button and undo vast amounts of the work that you've done and all of society's done. And I think that's maybe a reason for a lot of the discontent that we see in society. So getting back to a more truthful value communication layer can kind of propel us forward as a people, as a society. So yeah. I love it.
And yeah, on the language topic, I guess this was totally like another tangent article I wrote. Like, I don't even think anyone's read it. But basically kind of how language only gets us so far. And even like we're all speaking English right now, but like Ben, you just nodded to kind of signal that you were hearing what I was saying. Like we still lose so much meaning, even when we're speaking the same language. And I think to your point, like Bitcoin just gives us the values that even if it's kind of ambiguous, like we know the values of, you know, I respect what you're trying to do, inclusion, empathy, you know, private property rights, liberty, peace. Like it kind of gets the core values across, and it allows us to speak to like all 8 billion people, because Bitcoin is for everyone, and we all will interpret differently, speak different languages. But just to your point about getting values across in language, I think that is very powerful and kind of untapped at the moment in Bitcoin, and it, you know, might take another century, but it's just very interesting to think about.
That's awesome. Maybe I'll toss it down to the other gentleman if you guys want to dive in, comment, question, whatever you feel.
Sure, happy to. I mean, all this talk of languages and universal languages reminding me a lot of the Tower of Babel episode in the Bible, right? Where probably you guys all know it, but it's worth I think reminding ourselves of that quote where I have it here, where the world spoke one language and had a common form of speech, and as people journeys eastward, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. Blah blah blah. They wanted to build the Tower of Babel, but then the Lord came down and said, if they have begun to do this, and as one people speaking the same language, then nothing they devise will be beyond them. come come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they will not understand one another's speech. And so the Lord scattered them from there over the face of the earth, and they stopped building the city. So yeah, is God gonna come down to us and divide us now that we've reconnected the world in a single language?
As I'm again, communication is so integral to coordination of people towards a common goal, right? Like as soon as you lose that, so I mean, we're getting cosmic here, but there's that idea of the great filter. Like if you know, the idea is the universe is so vast that we should have seen aliens already. I don't know if I count the paper mache that were just revealed in Mexico as aliens, but nonetheless, the idea is that there could be a great filter, some sort of limiting aspect, or some sort of difficult thing to get past that may be preventing other civilizations from reaching us. And if that's true, then either we're the first ones to have passed it, or we have yet to encounter it. And so I've had discussions where people were saying to this kind of tune, is Bitcoin the great filter? Is that the coordination and communication layer necessary to bind us enough as a species to move forward and transcend where we're at right now? I guess we'll find out. Anyways, Arsh, sorry to cue you up with some crazy cosmic thing, but
No, I just got a reminder that I have to go reread that article. There was a lot there, Ella. No, I mean, no particular thoughts, but yeah, great article.
yeah.
It's nice that kind of ideas resurface themselves. Like, I don't know, it's like working like back in the subconscious, but you don't need to read my article again. I would say just watch the podcast. Michael does a much better job than me. But yeah, it's just fascinating to think about.
Yeah. Well, when you think of kind of the consequences of not having kind of or moving away from a universal value of language, language of value, rather, like we had a gold standard, but it was easy to pervert that by having it represented in various forms, and the physicality was its shortcoming. But do you feel like we lost things in that transition to what we've had for the past, 50, maybe more years? Do you feel like, what happens when we get away from that mutual understanding?
Yeah. So I think I kind of have to give Jimmy Song credit for this idea that I'll share, but I guess he talks a lot about like what are the values in our money, kind of like moral money versus immoral money. And I think the money that we have now, fiat, is just very immoral money and kind of value and meaning corrupting money. And I think Bitcoin is a much more moral money, more kind of pure element to just transact value, or because essentially we're just trying to connect values or needs, and I think Bitcoin is just a much pure kind of catalyst or kind of embodiment of that. So I hope that kind of answers your question, but I definitely think the money that we live with now kind of just embeds us with, or just kind of corrupts our ability to transact in the most kind of ethical, pure way.
Yeah. Mick, I want to toss one more thing your way, since you went the biblical route. I'm not a religious person myself, but I think through Bitcoin I've kind of come to have a greater appreciation of people that are religious, because of some of the ethical alignment, and I didn't quite understand this this idea of religion paired with Bitcoin, other than the fact that we're Bitcoiners and we're all in a cult. But but I didn't I didn't understand kind of where this draw came, because we have books again like Jimmy Song, Thank God for Bitcoin, and a number of others wrote that with him. But do you kind of see those parallels, like in terms of morals, like why those two kind of sets of ideals come together?
You only ask easy questions, don't you, man? Goodness. I mean, where do I stand in this? First of all, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I like to entertain. I like to learn from history. I'm not necessarily a religious person myself either, but I do think there's a lot of wisdom and maybe even historical references that we can draw upon, that match with what we know, what science is getting to today. So, just looking at the history of our civilization and how it geological and archaeological history seem to map a lot with some of those early historical references. But so where that then maps out with Bitcoin is it's really a personal thing. I think I think I've seen Bitcoiners go both routes. I've seen Bitcoiners go, actually there is no God. That's just a type of God. Is just a type of like, again, fiat. Like the word fiat, right, comes from decree, right? And some way God is decreeing, and what if we were to not accept that? And then I've seen other Bitcoiners just go down the God for Christian thing, and I don't know. I think, and to that, I think what's important is that it elicits different experiences that people can learn, different perspectives, I would say. But I guess what's important is that, and actually, I have written an article about this. It's called Bitcoin as a divinity, which is basically a way of saying, and trying to actually reject seeing Bitcoin as a religion, and trying to actually warn of the dangers of that. But at the same time, acknowledging that there is something, if you look at the word divinity and what, how to define something divine, it's something basically that cannot be understood, that is beyond comprehension. And so if you look at the history, we've always assigned, because actually my background is in anthropology, so I was fascinated with this idea that back in time people would ascribe sanctity and and divinities to certain aspects of their lives that were crucial, but they didn't necessarily understand. So they would assign divinity to everything, right? They would ascribe divinity to the sun and to the seasons and to the and sacredness to these things, because they relied on them and also didn't fully understand them. And so where so again, there and also and therefore what it does is that it creates a tradition, a ritual, a cultural ritual for respecting that thing, right? Respecting, if you're in ancient Egypt, yeah, the sun and the river and the cats, for the matter, because they killed pests. And so you then go about, there's religion becomes essentially rituals that help that has a function, a cultural function to help humanity thrive. So you don't have to read the entire Bible, but you have, through culture and religion, that cats are good because they kill the pests. I don't know, this is a bit of, it's a functionalist school of thinking, and it's not always correct. But I think from this sense, I think that religion is a net positive for humanity, and a good thing. But we also have to question our masters, right? Like the biblical stories say, you know, God did divide us up into having different languages for some reasons. So so yeah, the answer is I don't know. I'm just learning. Hoping to learn from you guys. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I wanna toss it to Arsh to get any last thoughts on this. I just wanted to, I guess the one thing that I was gonna say in and around this is, you know, historically, I definitely understand religion was a wonderful way to get people to again to synergize and work towards a common goal, because they were looking for not just for themselves but for their children and for their grandchildren and for, you know, generations to come. And so they would build these amazing things that maybe they wouldn't see come to fruition even within their lifetimes, but they would put in the work to you know, to have something for future generations to enjoy. And we kind of got away with that once the away from that once the money broke. But I think that the interesting part about Bitcoin is you're seeing such a diverse group of people come to it, right? Yeah, you know, you had the early stages of kind of like the cypherpunk and then libertarian kind of groups come to it, and then we've kind of had like the more, I guess, like traditional, I suppose, right wing kind of you know, right leaning people come to it. We now got a whole sect of like progressive Bitcoiners coming to the space. You know, we've got human rights advocates and political dissidents, and we've got all of these different things all coming to Bitcoin. So it kind of leads me to believe, as diverse as the number of opinions are in Bitcoin, we've all settled on the idea that Bitcoin is a better way to organize than what we've currently got. And it may be as or more powerful than some of these other institutions that we've had in the past. It might actually finally bring these disparate groups together so we can work together as a society. But I mean, Arsh, you are you know, you're busy working with various types of people from around the globe using Bitcoin, and you know, a lot of those people are very different walks of life. Do you think that Bitcoin is kind of taking us to a place where all of us can work together more efficiently and despite our differences?
Yeah, I mean, even going back to politics, right? Like, I think Bitcoin being a form of apolitical money, to where it doesn't really matter, you know, your politics, or, you know, how you identify on like the political scale. Um, a lot of people, you know, who we work with, they're kind of all over the world. They're on different political scales, but we can all agree about Bitcoin. So I think, you know, that's very powerful.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I mean, and we'll get to see it play out in the coming years. And yeah, you've got kind of people from all over the place and all over the political spectrum coming together, which is a unique thing to see. So awesome. All right.
Follow up on
Yeah.
that though, because what you said there, Ben, also reminded me that that's the problem, right? Is that when you have group of people forming together, and right, maybe you have an original point of conversion of, you know, of strong belief in something. What we see in history though is that too gets co-opted, right? And then it becomes a religion, and then it becomes mandation, and then it just becomes a way, it just becomes abused by certain people in power to take it over. And so it's that's the idea of seeing Bitcoin as it might be good. You could see it. You could argue that, you know, see Bitcoin as divine, but also don't create a cult around it or religion, because it'll get co-opted. And in any
Yeah.
case, it's something that yeah, don't create any kind of institutions around it, like, you know, we've seen with all sorts of religions being co-opted in the end.
Yeah. Do we get to a point where somebody uses the wrong app and they're ousted from society?
Custodial Bitcoin, exorcism.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you get kicked out. We're gonna close you off from the walled city. Yeah. No admittance to the Citadel. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. But
No vegetables.
yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. Did you just ingest something that wasn't steak? Not allowed. Anyways, yeah. So again, Ella, I love the topic. I think it's super interesting, and yeah, well, I mean, we'll see over our lifetimes kind of how it starts to play out, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, I guess we'll put a pin in this one, and we'll move on and do a rotation again. And so I'm going to Arsh, I'm going to toss it down to you. And again, same question coming your way. Why are you bullish?
Yeah, I think recently it's been physical spaces that make me very bullish. And you know, you guys already know where I'm going with this. I think the Nashville event that we had last week was an amazing reminder that when people with the same or similar ideology and with the same mission come together, people from all different walks of life, people from all around the world. So I mean, we had this event. You know, we co-hosted it with Bitcoin Park, and Bitcoin Park does an event called Grassroots every year, where they bring together, you know, BitDevs organizers from all across the states, Bitcoin community organizers, etc. So we thought to do the global version of that, called the Global Bitcoin Summit. So basically, what ended up happening is we invited close to 100, you know, activists, entrepreneurs, developers, educators from all around the world, from 56 different countries. So every continent besides Antarctica. And it was really cool because we got to spend, you know, 2-3 days together, and got to share ideas about different topics in Bitcoin. So it's always refreshing, because when you see people online, or when you see people not very often, and when you know, come together in a room, you can kind of form new ideas and new initiatives to help get Bitcoin to the people who need it the most.
Yeah. It's was there something that stood out for you? Like like, did you have a favorite part of the weekend, or a favorite presentation, or something that happened that you really liked?
Yeah, I mean, so like the way that we formatted it was, you know, there was people coming off, you know, planes, and they spent 30 plus hours getting to Nashville, right? So we didn't want to bore them with, you know, just a bunch of talks and panels. So the whole day was meant to be very interactive, to the point where we only had like one panel per day, but instead do lightning presentations, which, you know, which you did one of, on education, and do workshops and breakouts and stuff like that. So I think, you know, that was really the best part of it. I don't have a particular favorite, but I really did enjoy the format that we chose to do it in. I know you had a particular favorite. I wanted to pass that back to you.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple, but okay. So, there's a girl named Lisa Nifty who did a session, and it's called the Bitcoin LARP. LARP, those unfamiliar, stands for live action role play. But it was so well put together. Basically, you had groups of people, you know, sitting at little tables, and they were effectively doing the roles of what a Bitcoin node and eventually what a Bitcoin miner would do to relay transactions to and from other nodes in the network. And so you'd have different roles where you'd be, you had your mempool, and you had your actual blockchain of confirmed transactions, and you'd be doing the transaction IDs and nonces and all of this stuff. I was relaying information through the gossip network, which were two strings of yarn between me and other people at other tables. And anytime we had a transaction or did a transaction, you had to put it on a little ring, and like you'd write it out and you'd put it on a little ring, and then you'd let it go down the line to the next table, and the other person would have to take it and put it in their mempool and let everybody else know that they've seen this transaction too. And then, then we did like a mining competition, and you're just putting in random nonces to try and guess the block and everything. And like, it was wild. And it was such an interesting and informative way of doing it. Also, I learned something there, which I'm ashamed I did not know how this worked. I didn't know that the way that fees are allocated in any transaction, I didn't know that was just merely an omission of sending that Bitcoin to any particular place. So like when you're doing a transaction, the way you pay fees is you just say, I've got this much Bitcoin in a UTXO, and I'm only going to send a portion of it to this address, and whatever's left over, that's what the miners kind of scoop up in that I didn't know that. I had no idea that was how it worked. And that's why the number of Bitcoin that exist is some weird like super long decimal, is because miners can accidentally not scoop up those omitted sats. And so there's been instances where there's been mistakes, and it's just like, well, the block has been mined and those sats are just gone forever. And it's just because miners, like, they make a mistake and they don't scoop up the omitted sats from particular transactions. So anyways, I learned something new, and hats off to Lisa for running a killer session that taught me a lot. And yeah, what an amazing, she must have put so much work into fine tuning that whole thing and getting it to work. And I loved the organized chaos that took place in that room. It was amazing. Yeah.
So I didn't actually get to like sit in on that session, because we had a bunch of other tasks and items that we had to do. But Lisa actually, one of the first times that she did that LARP was with Generation Bitcoin in New York over a year ago. So we had, probably like 15, 20 people in New York City. And it was a very like interactive way to learn about nodes. I told Lisa she should make it into like a game and like try to like sell it, but she has so much stuff that she does. I don't know how she does it.
That'd be a hell of a strategy. Like that'd be because obviously there's a degree of chance with the whole mining thing, but like what a cool way of, again, just having a group of people in a room and being able to do that. And it's, again, it really does help wrap your head around what nodes do, what miners are doing. And I mean, I guess I wonder what the goal would be, like just to accumulate the most Bitcoin, but then you have expenses that you have to pay. So you got to send transactions to make sure they go through and they get mined. And yeah, it was so unique. So I'll definitely partake in that one again. Yeah, it was really cool. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk. Ella, you were there. Did you have a particular thing over the weekend there that you really enjoyed, that you had a lot of fun with?
Yes. Well, actually, I was initially going to say the same thing as you because I was in the LARP session also. And yeah, that was just so cool. And I think good news is she actually is going to produce kits, and so that people can then go and buy them. And I'm working with her right now. She is going to be kind of up in where I go to school, and she might come and lead that session. So fingers crossed, because I think it's just so cool. So I loved that, but then I also loved just like all the little moments you couldn't plan for. Like if you're just holding the door open and you look behind to like see who it is, and then you can just strike up a conversation, or you're, I don't know, just in line at the buffet to get food, or you're just walking from one place to the other. So I loved all that because most of the time Bitcoin just exists in the digital. Like our Bitcoin community doesn't often get to come together, and so our shit was so special that you and HRF and Bitcoin Park could bring everyone together, or many people together, to actually just be in a space and just kind of be in community with each other. So I really
Yeah.
loved that, and thank you.
Did your eyes gloss over a little bit when we went around the room and everybody stood up and said what who they are and what they do?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. And at the dinners that you all planned, and you're just sitting and you sit down, and you look and see who you're sitting across from, or
Mhm.
who's on the bus with you, or yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, the whole time. I felt like kind of like the smallest fish in the pond there, and it was just so
Yeah.
cool.
I had a moment on, I think it was the Saturday. I was sitting at the hotel just grabbing a coffee before heading out somewhere for a meal, and I'm sitting there, and this guy comes up and sits down and says, "Hey Ben, didn't really get to introduce myself, but nice to meet you." It was Julian Assange's brother, and I just about lost my mind because I hadn't really spoken with him before, and I was kind of shy to say anything. But like, what a nice guy! And then just sitting there and like having a casual conversation, being like, "Oh wow, you, your brother is like one of the more impactful, like again, like his graced the headlines of newspapers everywhere, is world renowned and infamous in some people's eyes. And again, to be sitting there with somebody that it is fighting to like free a family member from basically spending his life in prison for um, leaking information about government corruption. It was wild again. And like and Julian Assange is such an early part of Bitcoin history as well, with WikiLeaks. Like that was the first major instance of Satoshi, like the whole hornet's nest quote, like I fear that the swarm is coming towards us. um to have that, like that was super impactful for me. Just like I kind of couldn't believe that I was sitting there chatting with this person. These are the things that happen at these events, and it's a big deal. So yeah. Mick, I know you weren't present there, so I feel like I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, all I can say is I'm jealous, but it seems like it was awesome, and I'll have to check out this really cool LARPing thing.
Yeah,
Mick, you definitely strive to be there next year.
Mhm.
We're gonna probably do it again. So I think
Awesome.
it'd be great for you to also connect, because I actually, a lot of people there like had like Geyser projects and stuff. So I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
I
Love
think
to.
it aligns pretty well with the goals of the HRF, because like Geyser in and of itself is such a fantastic way to fund a lot of these projects that are just open source. People donating their time to build this stuff. It's one of the ways that they can hopefully make it work, is using tools like Geyser. So I mean, it kind of seems like a natural fit to me, but I don't know. I'm not in charge of the
Definitely.
HRF.
No, Mick and I, we're even talking. about like a potential partnership between HRF and Geyser, which I will follow up with on offline. But no, I mean, it's just like as far as the granting space goes, right? Like Geyser is doing something that's truly unique. I got to be on their board for this round of grants. This past round focused on education initiatives from all over the world and online projects as well. And you know, say there's a meetup that's kind of present there, right? And they just kind of need money to get lifted off the ground, make a website, get some pizza, beverages, whatever, right? Like typically, like these people don't need like $25,000, $50,000. Like a lot of the you know organizations that grant money in the space, which there's not many of, they typically do it at a larger capacity, 10,000 upwards of $100,000. So I think the concept of micro granting is very special and very important. And as Geyser coined, right? Like just letting the sats flow. Like it's not
Mhm.
about like getting like a Bitcoin or two Bitcoin, right? Like I mean, just getting a couple million sats um, goes a long way. And you can easily distribute that among different projects. Unfortunately, a lot of the organizations don't have the capacity to do micro grants to that level.
Mhm.
So I think a collaboration to that extent would be really really cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I love it.
Signing live.
I got I while I was down there in Nashville, I got a notification on my phone. I got a tweet that I got a little micro grant, which was super awesome. I was pretty stoked about that. I think I got like $150 or something, which was really cool to see that anybody gave a crap enough to like upvote it. But yeah, it was super awesome. What a useful thing for people to get their work in front of people. And there's so many awesome and talented people that are submitting projects on there. All of the sats. We need all of the sats showering on some of those amazing creators.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
there used to be a time, right? Like even as someone who like follows projects and vets projects and stuff, there used to be a time where like you can look and be like, okay, like there's X amount of projects ran by this person. It started here, now it's here. Like you actually like knew all the projects that were going on. And I felt like
Mm.
like yeah, like there was more projects that came on, but it had to be similar. But even sitting out in on like the round five of the grants for Geyser, it was just like so many new projects that like I had no clue
Mhm.
even existed, right? So it gave us some insight at HRF as well, to kind of see what these projects are doing. So yeah, thank you again, Mick, for inviting me on.
Yeah. Thank you for helping. Yeah, and doing the evaluation. And yeah, that was. Thank you for participating, man.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, with that, I think Mick, I should probably uh, send it your way then and do our final rotation. And again, I'm going to queue it up with the same question. Why are you bullish? Take it away.
Yeah. So Arsh stole my thunder there, but I'm I'm just joking. The So yeah, I'm bullish, as Arsh said, with Bitcoin educators. We just had this grant round 5 focus on Bitcoin education in education Bitcoin communities,
Mhm.
and it was exactly as Arsh said, just mind-boggling how much is happening. I didn't even know about. And what's really, really interesting is that you see these projects connecting with each other, learning from each other, taking from each other. And I think you have 4 different communities, for example, using Mi Primes Bitcoin's diploma in their community in Germany, in in a classrooms in the United Kingdom, um, in African schools, like I think African Bitcoiners, and I think there's a few others. So you see these kind of Lego pieces being built, like the diploma from Mi Primer Bitcoin, starting to kind of see themselves in other communities. And that's, you can basically with that start seeing how this can scale, like, right? You can start seeing how Bitcoin education can scale, because we have this really small but powerful building block that can be replicated and scaled up. And you see people starting these projects from just with an idea. And this is where, you know, Geysers, why we started Geyser in the first place is because we realize, well, everyone has ideas, right? And the hard part is, how do you get it started? How do you take an idea from just being an idea to actually being, okay, I'm gonna do it? And it's you know, Geyser just makes it, compresses the challenge and effort of taking that first step. And so with that project, and now we have over 100 projects on Geyser, 70 projects applied for the grant, 55 won a grant. And the powerful thing of the grant is that it works at these different tiers, right? So whatever point that you are in your journey, there is a small grant for you. So the tier 3 was $150 one. We had a second for 500, and also one for $2,500, and everyone could essentially kind of ramp up their work, and a lot of it is also just connecting these communities that are, as Arsh said, all over the world. We had, is it worth me sharing quickly here? I think I can present. Is it presentation?
Yep. I think it'll
no.
pop up for me.
Yeah, I don't think I can actually.
Do you want me to pull up just like the Geyserfund page?
Oh, that sounds good. Or even just the tweet thread. Like actually, yeah.
If you send the tweet thread link in the show notes or in the private chat, I'll pull it up for you as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So so basically what you get here is yes, if you can, on top right, you can probably see the grants. Oh, there, perfect. So that's the one. So there you have basically projects from, well, you got the board, the sponsor, shout out to Blink for making it happen, and some anonymous Bitcoiners. But then here, you have these in Africa, you have an exorbitant number of projects that have won a grant, so many different communities. And again, you can start seeing how these are just like the seeds that are being seeded. But you have the same also in Asia, right? We have again, all over. You've got Hong Kong. You've got I think you've got something like 40 different countries here represented, and Europe, South America, and some of these are just people that were like, I want to make this happen. You know, it's gonna be small. It's gonna, but we want to start having a community space, doing education, and we can just take the open source Mi Primer Bitcoin curriculum and start using it. And we can just plug into Geyser and start receiving donation from the community. And so this Geyser grants ends up being a very powerful thing that works for both starting to kind of get that initial bit of funding, but also more importantly to connect you with the rest of the network of the community, learn from them, be inspired by them, and kind of be part of that learning process. So it ends up being a lot of work for us, a lot of operational work, but it's also there we got a lot of help from Lee, who is helping us organize the grants. So that shout out to Lee, and it ends up being such a powerful way to kind of bring the community together. And I mean, there's a lot to say, but that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah,
that's what a great tool. And like when you go in to Geyser and you take a look, even just aside from the grants, just all of these projects that are so incredible. I mean, my first Bitcoin is I remember chatting with them at, I think, Bitcoin 2022, or maybe it was 21 even. And it wasn't quite a thing yet. And to see what it's become is wild. But like, again, just the ability to go in and choose, like, oh, do you want to maybe filter by education, community, culture? Again, so like just looking at the education stuff here, again, some of the most funded stuff this week, and you can, you know, toggle all these settings, but it shows you all these great projects that are going on. The Hough of Bitcoin, the guys in France, what they're building is amazing. It's such a well-refined, again, educational track. It's awesome to see. There's so much going on, and there's Anita. Anita was also down in Nashville, and man, what an awesome educator she is. Paco was down there. He's crazy.
He is definitely,
but I
good kind
love
of
him.
crazy.
Yeah, good crazy. But yeah,
The Me Premier guys were there as well, and it was very cool seeing like how a lot of different, it's been translated into so many different languages and stuff now as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so much. Again, you've got Max DeMarco, amazing filmmaker. I think Julian is on here as well, aka Kinetic Finance, and he's doing really amazing video work. There's just a whole bunch. There's me, yay! But there's so much going on. That I'm glad to see Urban Hacker is getting a little bit of funding for he's got like a cool retro video game thing to teach you about Bitcoin that he's putting together. But there's so much there that you can dive into. And even if you're just browsing through and you want to see kind of, you're just curious about what people are making and what kind of interesting tools or fun things that you can check out, just go to geyser.fund and just poke around, and you're gonna come across things that you're like, oh wow, I didn't know anybody's working on something like this. And there's a lot of really cool stuff happening, and I can't recommend checking out this page more, because man, there's some creative people out there. And if you're a creative person also, you should probably get on Geyser. Maybe I should make a tutorial around how to do that.
Oh man, we have to do that. Let's yeah, we should do that for sure. We'd love to.
I think that's something next to that we should probably do. Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
And I'll just say that, yeah, you know, right now Geyser is, you know, the front page is, you know, just seeing what's there and searching. It's quite, you know, basic, you know, it just helps you find a project or discover. But you know, you in the next months you'll see a lot more happening.
That's
not just discovering, but really interacting and engaging a lot more.
That's cool to hear. Awesome. For now, like if somebody wants to start playing around with Geyser, do you want to maybe kind of give like a TLDR of what they need to do to get started?
Yeah, sounds good. So it's really Geyser's built for everyone, right? So if you are a hardcore Bitcoiner and you want to keep full custody of your Bitcoin and have a non-custodial project, you can just plug your node. Currently, it just supports LND and ClearNet. We're still working on the other options, but doing so would be quite easy. In fact, in that case, Geyser will be free to use. We don't charge to any creators that are connecting their node, because we want to incentivize that. We want people to use our nodes and reward people that are helping secure the Bitcoin network. And that's once you do that, you just connect your node or your Lightning address, and so you can just plug in your Lightning address, and then you'll get all the sats received directly into your custodial or non-custodial wallet. So, you know, this is, you know, I think 97% of projects right now use Lightning addresses,
Mhm.
which is to say that, not everyone runs a node,
Mhm.
but everyone uses Bitcoin, right? So many people can use Bitcoin and leverage Bitcoin, and think of all the people around the world, right? From the Philippines to India and Nepal that don't have access to crowdfunding, right? That now can use crowdfunding thanks to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we just make it a lot easier for them to quickly get set up and have a page. But then, yeah, once you plug in your node, you just have a few say a few things about the title of your project, the one-liner, the description, and add also some tags so that you can be searchable. Add links, and then you're off to the races. It takes 1 minute to create a project, and then maybe a few more minutes if you want to add a little bit more texture, and then
Mhm.
you're off. It's really quite straightforward and smooth. The project goes live automatically,
Mhm.
and then we just do some basic due diligence to make sure that it's not like an impersonation, to make sure that it's not committing fraud, or is not like endorsing violence, or anything like that.
Mhm.
So Geyser still is a platform for now,
Mhm.
in a sense that it's we still have a terms and condition, and we still have to respect um, the rules. If you are looking for a fully non-custodial experience, it still suggests other options,
Mhm.
like maybe using Nostr or using BTC Pay Server.
Mhm.
Those are also fantastic options, but Geyser tries to really push forward the easy to use, leveraging Bitcoin, plug and play kind of solution.
Yeah.
And yeah, but going forward, we also have more plans with Nostr that I'm happy to discuss more if you like.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Huh. I might tug on that string. I was just gonna say again, if anybody feels hesitant about diving on there, again, like you're saying, you can connect your node, or you can just plug in a Lightning address. And if you don't have a Lightning address, just go like Blink is a great, easy onboarding solution for. So the Blink wallet, you download it, and right away they'll give you your own Lightning address. And if you just sign on to Geyser and plug that address in, it just looks like an email. That's all you need, and you'll get the sats directly to your wallet. And then I should also say that yes, that's custodial, but it probably won't be long before we start to
Yeah.
see non-custodial
Oh,
options that also
please.
have Lightning addresses.
Oh, can't wait for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be a huge. That's
Yeah.
like a game changer for everybody, where you can basically download an app and open it up, and then just set a Lightning address, and then anybody in the world can send you sats non-custodially via Lightning immediately. That I feel like is the next evolution for Bitcoin, where people can just say, yeah, I've got and all the complicated bits are in the background, and you don't need to worry about it. You just have a Lightning address, and all of the channel management and everything is just defers to a Lightning service provider, and you're set. That's going to be great.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exciting
Um,
times.
so I heard mention of Nostr here. Are you? I don't know what you're at liberty
Yeah.
to say.
So I can't say too much.
Mhm.
Um, uh, it's part of a bigger announcement we're trying to make. Gonna be making next few months.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's really trying to leverage what Nostr provides. We're trying to right. And let me just kind of maybe highlight the problem. All right, the problem right now of platforms like Geyser, but traditional kind of Web 2 platforms, is that their moat is to kind of you know bring the users in order to monetize mainly through advertisements. Geyser is not the case, right? So the problem, it all really stems with the problem of monetization. So the platforms make money through advertising, and therefore how you make money is that you bring them to your platform,
Mhm.
right? Now, Bitcoin solves that, right? Because now with Bitcoin, you can monetize from this activity taking place, not just on your platform, right? Because money is now interoperable. So, if a user uses a Geyser Lightning address and sends funds from Nostr, Geyser can still monetize a small percentage. So the whole monetization kind of via bringing people to your platform isn't as useful, first of all. Second, creators end up suffering a lot because they create content on a platform, right? And then they have to send people to that platform for them to consume that content. And so you end up in this world of SEOs where you see this image SEO and you have to click there and go to another website. And that just creates a lot of friction for the viewers of the content, for people that are, for the communities who end up feeling a lot more friction of having to go from one place to another. And also, secondly, just the problem of ownership, of the data. The data ends up, that content ends up being basically stuck in that platform, and it's not really yours in the first place either. And so we think Nostr really solves the problem of cross-platform content and content ownership. And so we're taking some steps in that direction, which I think will really help creators reach their community more, and get more engagement of the community. So right now, Geyser is entirely about making it super easy to fund your creators or get funded. But we've done basically zero in terms of enabling engagement to happen. And the reason for that is we didn't think it was appropriate yet, because it just didn't feel right to just build something the old school way where right now we have these entries, but we sort of kind of realize that it's different to do so in a platform versus to do so in a protocol level. So expect some big changes, but cannot say more than that at the moment.
Very interesting. Well, I will be watching. I'll also be watching on Nostr to see what pops up and what kind of hints I can find. But that's very exciting. By the way, this is also streaming live to Nostr, so I'm sure there's some Nostriches that are watching right now and curious about that. So that's super awesome. All right. Well, I think now comes the time where we start to begin to round things out. And what I usually like to do near the ends of episodes, unless, of course, Ella or Arsh, you wanted to add anything to what Mick was talking about, thoughts, quick things you wanted to touch on.
I kind of just had two big takeaways from all the great work that you're doing. And I think the first is just that it puts into perspective just how global Bitcoin is and just how much is happening around the world outside of who might be in your local community or what you kind of see in your local area. And then the second is that it's like validation for your hard work. I think from past experience I've had, like in kind of a funding sponsorship role, like if you don't have anyone to kind of place value on the work you're doing, maybe you almost self-select out, but what you've created is a way for everyone to receive that validation of the work and really just kind of have that motivation again. So those are just my two takeaways.
Awesome. I don't know if Arsh, if you have anything that you wanted to tag on before we round out.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's making the crowdfunding space more interactive. Like typically there's people who get grants from like private organizations. It's typically behind closed doors. I have a lot of fun going on Geyser and just like donating to a project, and then they had this, like, you guys had this like tweet bot where it was like at Arsh Molu donated 21,000 sats to this project. I'm not sure if that's still a thing, but I remember from like early on days, and the UX is very simple. So I think as far as like onboarding people to donate to projects and to set up their own campaigns, this is definitely an amazing solution to that. So props to you guys and the whole Geyser team for sure.
Yeah,
Thanks, mate.
absolutely.
Yeah. And thanks,
Awesome.
Ella, and yeah, also definitely props to the great team behind me. With the guys are including Stelios, Sazal, Alejandro, and Travis, and
Lee.
Awal. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Again, another, I guess, throwing back to my initial reason, another great example of people building cool things. So love to see it. All right. So I'm going to start rounding out here. What I like to do at the very end is just do a quick round of, if you have anything that you didn't get to mention that you want to quickly mention, but more importantly, if you have a recommendation that you'd like people to check out. And when I say recommendation, I usually mean really anything that you think people could get value out of, whether it be a book, a podcast, a video, an application, a piece of hardware, general life advice, really anything that you think will provide some value to people watching now or later listening, audio only. Yeah, please let them know. So Ella, I'll go to you. Any final thoughts, recommendations you might have?
Okay, I hope it's okay, but I have three, but I'll be quick. So I think the first one, go watch everyone, the Michael Dunworth on what Bitcoin did. Just if you just kind of want like your mind to be blown a little bit, just go watch that. Second is the audience or people in school, any type. There's another good podcast I'd recommend. It's on Bitcoin Fixes This with Jimmy Song and David Perel, I think is how you say the last name. But essentially the TLDL, like too long didn't listen, is don't be so focused on the utility of your curiosity. So in school, you're kind of, okay, this is the subject I need to, like, this is why I'm learning this. This is the utility value of whatever I'm learning. But the takeaway from this is like, just be curious. Don't be so focused on what am I getting out of my curiosity. That's number two. And then number three, and Arsh can expand, is we're launching a Bitcoin Student Clubs network. So if you're a student watching this or know a student and you want to be connected with a group of students learning Bitcoin, studying about Bitcoin, or you have a Bitcoin club and you're also kind of looking for funding, we're going to also be with the network once it gets up and running. So that's a new project. Definitely be on the lookout for more information. But yes, thanks so much, Ben, for having me on.
That's great. Thank you. And what a great initiative. I think again, having people that are currently in school go and start learning about and hosting meetups and creating clubs to learn about Bitcoin is a fantastic thing. So yeah, that's great. Arsh, I'll toss it to you again. Final thoughts and recommendations, anything you might have?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Ella, I mean, there's a lot of people now, especially coming into the space, I'd say in the past like year or two, as far as like more college and high school students goes, and we're seeing more Bitcoin clubs and people who are curious about Bitcoin. I know that definitely wasn't the case, a few years ago when I started getting into Bitcoin. So I'm glad that's like ever so changing. Um, so yeah, I mean, like under Generation Bitcoin, we were going. Um, we were looking at clubs and we were looking at colleges and stuff, and thinking about like writing proposals and like for like independent Bitcoin majors, which Ella actually did to her own school. But instead of dealing with all the bureaucracy and like the timing and everything, we decided to take a step forward and kind of sync with like already existing blockchain and crypto clubs to kind of say, hey, like you should circle back to Bitcoin, because a lot of these clubs started on the foundation of Bitcoin, but as Ella mentioned earlier, Bitcoin is somehow in some way old tech now, which is totally not the case. So I think going to them and offering a community and resources where we can be like, hey, like start teaching about Bitcoin. Here are some resources. Here's some funding. If your club is reading a cool book that you like about Bitcoin, we can try to arrange to have that guest speaker come to your class, and talk to you guys about it, online, in person, whatever the case may be. And you'd be surprised. Like there's a lot of already existing uh, blockchain crypto clubs, or clubs that did exist at one point, but they've just kind of been passed down, and there's nothing happening there. So I think extending the footprint, like on campuses, and even high schools all throughout the world, is a very underserved thing right now, and there's a lot of opportunity in that space for sure.
Awesome. I love it. I'll toss it one further down to Mick. And again, any final thoughts, recommendations you want to toss out there? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just have two recommendations. One is definitely listen to BTC sessions. Very high signal, great guy, great guests. So definitely that. And and then go to Geyser. I'm gonna shill it. Support your favorite creators. They are the ones that are the true heroes. That are pushing Bitcoin signal forward. And also, everyone is a creator. It's really about bringing your passions with your talents, and everyone has talents, and there will be a demand for that intersection between talents and passions, because the world is big and the internet connects us all, and there will be a demand for that very particular niche, and then when you do, Geyser could be a good place to start. So so happy to hear your feedback. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, metamic14 or at geyser.fund. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time, for being here on a Friday evening, joining me. It's always the best part of my week, getting to hang out with some Bitcoiners and chat about what we're excited about. So again, appreciate all you guys. Are you guys who's going to be down? Are any of you going to be in LA in a couple weeks at all? No. Yeah, Ella, you will be? Okay, awesome. Arsh, are you down or no?
Not this year. Gladstein will be there though.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well,
Ella, shouldn't you be in school?
I know I am. I know. Thank goodness I have friends in some classes to help me with notes. But yes, Bitcoin's important.
Just wondering if you were actually in university or. I'm just kidding. That's all part of learning. It's
Yes.
Conferences are so critical.
yeah.
Ever since Bitcoin started, being a role, like we've always been a bad influence, dragging Ella to like conferences. Like she came to Nashville. She's going to Africa later this year. So
Yes.
I think it's definitely great. But yeah, thank you again, Ben, for having
Thank
us.
you, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thanks,
no
man.
worries.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
being here. And I'm sure I will see all of you before long at some event, if it's not LA. So thank you guys very much. Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
You too. Bye.
See you guys.
Thank you, mate.
Bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.
See you guys. Awesome. And everybody watching, thank you so much for being here. What a blast. What a great group of people. Yeah, we're going to be seeing each other. I was saying LA, Pacific Bitcoin's just around the corner. That's coming up quick. What is it? But 2 weeks today, it'll be the second day of Pacific Bitcoin. Holy, that's coming fast. Anyways, that's going to be blast. I'm very excited for that. So yeah, anybody unfamiliar that's in LA, it was a really good event last year. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was it was in the midst of the FTX collapse, and that was an interesting framing as we were there. And what a great time. But high signal, lots of great speakers. So yeah, if you're around, make sure you say hi while you're down there. If you still need tickets, I believe you can use code SESSIONS on pacificbitcoin.com, and that'll get you like 21% off. So yeah, anyways, also, if you're going to be down, I'm doing my workshops. I've got 2 workshops going on. I'm doing my tap signer workshop, which is we're going to be learning about a couple different things here. So effectively, what you'll be able to do is you'll learn how to use Nunchuk Wallet on mobile. You'll learn how to set up and use a tap signer, and then you'll learn how to use multiple tap signers to create a multi-sig wallet. So I'm going to be doing that on the Saturday morning after Pacific Bitcoin. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to be running my cold card deep dive. So that's everything like setting up a cold card, using it, doing transactions, doing air gap transactions, wiping the entire device, and then also restoring it, and then also diving into some of the advanced features. That's a beast of a workshop. It's like 4 hours long. So you'll walk out of there knowing a ton about the cold card. Either way, both of them are happening on October 7th, the Saturday in the morning and the afternoon. And last time I did my workshops in Miami, I just did the one, but that one totally sold out. So if you want to come, get in before they're gone. I think there's 6 left for the multi-sig one, and there's 5 left for the cold cards. So coming quick. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'm going to say thank you so much for being here. Of course, please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. Super important. They really do help the show. You can also hit up the previously mentioned sponsors. They're all down in the show notes. And then if you really liked what you saw, you can always hit up my website, btcsessions.ca. There's tons of free information there, ways to book me for one-on-one sessions, all the workshop information, and also if you want to drop a tip, my Geyserfund page is there, which we got to talk about a little bit today. Anyways, guys, I'll wrap that there, and I'll just say thank you so much for being here. Have a great weekend. And I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This was your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.